And it doesn't matter if you help someone just a little bit and they end up with 1% more energy at the end of the day, it will automatically flow to human kindness. And that's how you fix all the victim mindsets. That's how you fix all the fear, all the reactivity, all the lack of thinking, all the polarization that people have right now is calmness, showing up with presence. And to do it, it's actually work. And that means you do the work on you first. You don't do the work on other people.
One of the things I've noticed is, I go hang out at the cafe and meet other, bulletproof people, biohackers, whatever you want to call them, people who are into optimizing their health. And there's a completely different vibe than if I go to anywhere else in Los Angeles. In other words, there's a sense of optimism, a sense of energy. Most of the people are doing really interesting things. Like there's a community that's happened out of this. And my question is, do you feel that in such an increasingly complex world, I say the world is an HD TV and everybody's trying to tune in through black and white television, that it's our perhaps moral, biological, or ethical, or maybe Darwinian kind of duty to concentrate on evolving the species? Because I see a lot of people that seem to be going down the drain, and then there's people like in this community that seem to be expanding human possibility. Is that kind of where your direction is, or is that where the future is, or what's your opinion on that kind of idea?
I spent a lot of time on this, and it's shifted over just over the couple decades of this. So this includes going to Tibet and learning meditation from the masters, going down in the late 90s before most people had heard of it, and doing ayahuasca with a shaman, and traveling the world, exploring what's going on, interviewing I'll just call them the masters, the people who are some of the few living masters of lineages from China and from schools of psychology, people translating Sanskrit texts. And you realize there's been, for thousands of years, a movement of how do we evolve the species. Except if you say, I'm going to evolve the species, what you're doing is you're imposing your will on other people. And what I'm doing is I'm evolving myself. That's how I evolve the species. And I know that I have an effect on the world around me. In fact, I know everyone that I come in contact with has their own impact on the world around them. And the reason I know that is because we can measure it. We can measure it with the EEG stuff at 40 years of Zen. We can measure it with heart rate variability. A lot of people don't know this, but if you walk into a stall with a horse, the horse's heartbeat spacing will change to match yours before you touch the horse. It's literally a field effect. And this is hard science. It's not the woo-woo kind of stuff. So you walk into a room, if you're the person with a calm, centered, grounded, powerful presence, it's electrically and magnetically verifiable, right? And the people in the room will resonate with you. And when I go on stage at a Tony Robbins event, and what do you think I'm doing backstage for then? I am changing the shape of my heartbeat, right? Because I want to resonate well with the audience. And Tony charges up his energy backstage the same way, because we know if you're going to interact with people, you do it, and they interact with you. And this is actually the nature of reality. So if all that's going on, look, there are people who are here for suffering. Suffering is something that will happen in your life until you get the point. You cannot stop other people from suffering, right? You can work to liberate them from it, but they will do it until they get it, right? So our job, should we choose to accept it, is actually just to show up and be an example of what is possible, right? And when you're the example and you're saying, oh, I am going to face the world with optimism today, and then people are going, wait, I get to choose. I can follow your example and I can choose optimism and realize, wow. And you go to the Bulletproof Coffee Shop, there's a community of people who have chosen to be highly energetic and to be optimists. And that's really cool. And it's self-supportive. I believe that it doesn't take very many people doing that kind of work in order for it to become infectious. How's that for using a powerful loaded term? In order for it to spread, right? And then you walk into a coffee shop, say that's not even the Bulletproof Coffee Shop because you're cheating on me. And you go in and you're nice, right, to your barista. And that alone, what effect does it have on the world? Well, a lot of people treat it like it's a robotic transaction. And other times people look you in the eye and they say, how are you today? Or they're just cordial, or they leave a tip, or they do something. If you're one of those people, it spreads goodness in the world. My fundamental belief after dissecting the algorithms of life, both from 40 Years of Zen, the books on mitochondria, is that we follow this rule set. And you know this because this is part of the foundational training at 40 Years of Zen, but I'm going to repeat it for people listening. Every life form on Earth, whether it's a subcellular component like a mitochondria, a bacteria, a cactus, a zebra, number one, run away from, kill, or hide from scary things. And there's different techniques to do this, right? Different animals do different things. And you do this because if you die right now, it's game over, right? And then number two, eat everything. Because famines have killed most species. A lack of calories, lack of nutrients is deadly. You don't know this, but your body knows this, and it'll tell you to eat the muffin even if you don't need the muffin. It'll do it reliably, and saying no to that voice actually takes energy unless you do some biological stuff that you and I both know about to turn off the hunger at its source, so you don't have to worry about that voice in your head anymore. The third thing that is also an F word, so we have fear, we have food, and the third F word is fertility. I know that's not what you were thinking. Shame on you. And fertility is you got to make sure the species reproduces. So if you're not stuffing yourself with food and you're not running away from something scary, you're looking for where you're going to get some. Right? Okay. All three of these are kind of big distractions if you have something else to do. And that is the fourth F word. By the way, these go in order biologically. And if you were to program an artificial intelligence system to follow these rules, you would get the human ego emerging from that. But the fourth one is friend. And what we do there is the same thing that bacteria do when they make yogurt or kombucha. They interoperate, they cooperate, they form biofilms, and they specialize. Right? So each of us has our role. We work together as a cooperative society. It's not, road warrior, anarchy, war kind of things. So if we're following all four of these things in order, if we can do less of the first three, then you can do a lot more of the fourth one. And I believe we are fundamentally wired at a subcellular component to be nice to each other. It's part of who we are. So 40 Years of Zen is around resolving the first F word. So you have very little fear in your life, very little reactive fear. And fear is the source of the angry voice in your head. And then Bulletproof has been about fixing hunger. How many times do you think about what's for lunch? How many times does that take you out of your zone? How many times have you tried meditating? Going, I'm too hungry to meditate. I have to think about food. How about if that voice just shuts the hell up? Okay, I live a life where hunger is just not a major presence in my thoughts, right? And it's very, very liberating as a former fat person. And then you're like, okay, so what's going with that third one? Having some love in your life is important, but I'll tell you, if you are absolutely addicted to having sex every 2 minutes, right, and you think about it all the time, that's also taking you off your mission. So I've published data, a year's worth of ejaculation data and happiness data correlated and cross-correlated. How's that for embarrassing, right? But that was in Game Changers, but it's important. And we have a whole bunch of people, especially now that everyone's in a pandemic, where they're spending half their time on porn. You got to get rid of that crap too. And what's left is, how do I show up in the world and be nice to other people? And it doesn't matter if you help someone just a little bit and they end up with 1% more energy at the end of the day, it will automatically flow to human kindness. And that's how you fix all the victim mindsets. That's how you fix all the fear, all the reactivity, all the lack of thinking, all the polarization that people have right now, is calmness, showing up with presence. And to do it, it's actually work. And that means you do the work on you first. You don't do the work on other people. Sorry, it was a long answer, but that's what I think.